affair, a debacle, really, for the socialist government. Florence VILLEMINOT has joined us on set. You've been reading the press. What are the newspapers saying?
Well, you really get the impression that a lot of French papers feel like the wind has been knocked out of them. There's this real sense of shock, almost disgust. If we look at the front page of Libération today, this one word, indigne, so shame, disgrace, this feeling of unworthiness as well. So after months of lying to the French people, to the president, to the parliament, Mr. Anti-Tax Evasion comes out as having this secret bank account. In their editorial, Libération says this is profoundly shameful on several levels. First of all, on a personal level, the fact that he, a socialist, had this secret bank account, well, that's just morally wrong on a personal level, but it also has broader implications because the fact that he was lying for so many months, well, it really completely discredits politicians. How can you trust them, asks Libération in their editorial. And it also comes as a slap in the face to François Hollande's campaign promise. He had promised that his government would be squeaky clean, it would be la République exemplaire, it would really set the example.
And the right-leaning newspaper Le Figaro is rubbing its hand at this news.
That's right. Now, they have a much more simple front page today, just with this quote, "Je demande pardon," so beg for your apology, according to Cahuzac's website. But their editorial is a lot more harsh. It, for instance, talks about the profound hypocrisy that all this has shown, because for years, the socialists have been ranting and raving about just how morally wrong the opposition, the UMP, was. The government and several ministers, including Sarkozy, got wrapped up into a bunch of scandals. But Le Figaro says what this really is the pot calling the kettle black, because what it calls la gauche morale, so the moralizing left, well, it turns out that though they've been getting lessons the whole time, they're also guilty of the same moral failings and hypocrisy.
And what's the take in Aujourd'hui en France, another popular daily?
Well, they talk about lies that are splattering all over Hollande. It's like a stain. They say that it comes at a bad time for France, really, because a lot of French people don't really trust the political elite. So this is probably going to exacerbate that. But on top of that, it's likely to push voters towards the extreme right. But the main idea is that it's just really embarrassing for the government. You see this cartoon here of Jérôme Cahuzac that's, well, doing bunny ears behind François Hollande there.
And the website that leaked the article in the first place and brought those accusations forward is called Mediapart, and apparently they're continuing their investigation into Cahuzac. What's going on?
That's right. Now they're wondering if this is just the case of one man's failing or if this is a broader, a state scandal. What they really want to find out is who else knew about his secret bank accounts, and especially did François Hollande know about it, and since when has he known about it? And this is especially something that's interesting for the opposition. And in fact, Mediapart in this article quotes Le Canard enchaîné from last week, so a satirical magazine, that says that Hollande actually had evidence, very credible evidence, in December that this bank account might exist. The Huffington Post
suggesting that he's been covering it up for the last 3 months.
Perhaps that's what Mediapart wants to get to the bottom of. And in fact, Huffington Post reports that a lot of other people also are curious about just what the government knew. The government really is coming under fire for the way they handled this whole affair. And you've seen François Hollande and his Prime Minister Jean-Marc being very quick to react, being very quick to point out how outraged and betrayed they feel. But it seems like they're bracing themselves, in fact, for an aftershock, because on the right and on the far left, politicians have called for a parliamentary investigation just to find out exactly what Hollande and Jean-Marc Ayrault knew about this. But the real point of what a lot of papers are focusing on today is the hypocrisy behind all this. And if we take a look at the front page of L'Echo, which is a regional paper from Haute-Vienne, it shows a picture of Cahuzac when he was giving a speech back in November, where there's this little headline that says "Lutte contre la fraude fiscale," so fight against tax evasion. Well, fortunately, that's what he's being accused of. Also on the front page of La Voix du Nord, so a paper from Lille. It's the very same photo. It's been all over the press. And they point out that we haven't seen this level of lying since Lance Armstrong.
To be honest, Florence, I thought you'd be talking about a very different topic today, and it's only the fact that this scandal emerged yesterday that sort of knocked football off the headlines. But fortunately, you've also been reading the main sports daily in France, L'Équipe.
L'Équipe, and a lot of other papers are talking about this. In fact, it was what we were talking about yesterday. It was all about last night's
Paris Saint-Germain versus Barcelona.
Exactly, the hotly anticipated game. Well, according to Aujourd'hui en France, tous les espoirs sont permis, so we can keep our hopes up. It says that Paris Saint-Germain does, in fact, have a chance of being qualified for the Champions League's semi-final after last night's draw 2-2. And L'Équipe, of course, they say that it was much more than a game, but we're going to have to wait until, April 10th for the return match.
All right, well, we've got a writer for the sports daily L'Équipe who's on set, who's joined us, Eric Bilderman. Thanks for being with us. Look, we're going to have to tread carefully here. We want to analyze yesterday's game with you, but we've got split loyalties in the newsroom. We've got Florent, one of the co-producers for the show. He's a big fan of Paris Saint-Germain. Carolina, who's in the gallery in the control room. She lived in Barcelona, so she's a diehard Messi fan. First question. We said a lot about, and much was said about Zlatan Ibrahimovic versus Lionel Messi. The best player in the world versus another excellent player in the world. Who did best, who did better, and was Ibrahimovic up to all his talk?
First of all, Messi did play only the first half due to an injury, but in the first half he was decisive. He was not the great Messi, but in one split action he did the job. So Messi was on the edge to be the man of the match from the Barcelona point of view. For Ibrahimovic, we were very, very disappointed for nearly 80 minutes. He was off. It was like having a psychological problem to head to the quarter-final, to the very up stage in Europe like he did in the past. He always...
You're saying he can't handle the pressure?
I think he had a mental block when he had to play to the very top level in Europe. But in the last 10 minutes, he did score a goal. The goal was offside, but it's a goal. And then it was decisive to give the ball to Matuidi for the second goal. So if we save the 10 last minutes, we can say he did the job. And that's what we were expecting from him. So thanks to Ibrahimovic to keep our hope alive.
So the hope, all right, Paris Saint-Germain keeping the hope alive. Paris Saint-Germain will actually need to win in the return match in Barcelona next Wednesday, because if they draw, they don't go through to the semi-finals.
Except if they draw 2-2 or 3-3, then they go through 3-3, and 2-2 they go to penalty.
Okay, that's due to the way that the points are counted. What does Paris Saint-Germain have to change in their game in order to beat Barcelona the next time around?
First, they have to think to play without Matuidi. Matuidi is suspended, and Matuidi was with Thiago Silva, the key man of Paris Saint-Germain. Though they have to increase their sharpness in the midfield. They have Chantôme, they have Verratti, who did play in the last 30 minutes, and I think Beckham might be dropped. But in the meantime, they need maybe to have 3 defensive players to keep the game as close as possible. The two defensive line very sharp, and maybe just to bet on a counter-attack and with a bit of luck. That's the most important point, maybe the luck.
Just quickly, let's listen to the Barcelona coach, the one who's standing in for Villanova right now. They appear not to be too worried. He does believe that his team's going to advance to the semi-finals. Let's take a listen.
Sorry.
No me ha sorprendido para nada.
We weren't at all surprised by Paris Saint-Germain's approach. We know what they're capable of. We know them very well. They're physically strong. They have some great players. I don't know how it must have affected their morale to have bounced back twice like they did. In any case, for us, it's a very good result. I think we'll give our best back in Barcelona to qualify, while bearing in mind, as I said, how difficult Paris Saint-Germain will make it for us.
Okay, one very important factor. We don't know if Lionel Messi will be able to play in the next game. How much of a difference is that going to make?
That's going to be very, very important. But in the meantime, when Spain is world champion, is European champion, they play with the squad of Barcelona, they play with the Barcelona style. So they beat France in the Stade de France without Messi. So Barcelona without Messi is still a very, very strong team.
They're still the favorite. All right, Eric Bilderman, thank you very much for coming on set here on France 24. We'll be watching. No doubt we'll be hearing from you next week after the next game.
My pleasure.
And coming up in business, high-speed rail in Morocco, a dose of French